from that story to the next story, man, SeaWorld. SeaWorld ain't what SeaWorld used to be like back in the day. SeaWorld was, if you haven't been to SeaWorld, it's a combination of Disneyland, Six Flags, and the zoo. And normally in SeaWorld, you get to see these sea creatures perform with, perform at this large scale pool. This is pretty amazing. If you have kids, if you are a young family, I suggest you to go to SeaWorld, particularly if you got young kids, because it's going to be PG theme type of entertainment. It's going to be clean entertainment, particularly if you have kids and if you have kids that love animals or kids that are wondering about different kinds of animals. I recommend taking them to SeaWorld. Well, SeaWorld, they're in the game of not only still doing that, but they're also in the game of showing other types of performers and other types of entertainment. Now, I haven't been to SeaWorld in many moons. Okay. Now at SeaWorld, they have performers. And when I saw this, I'm going like, it just blew my mind. I would have thunk this type of performance will be happening at SeaWorld. But now at SeaWorld, they got Soulja Boy performing at SeaWorld. They got Bow Wow performing at SeaWorld. They got all the 90 artists performing at SeaWorld. They got Genuine. Let me see who else they had. Color Me Bad. For those out there who've been living on a rock, I like want to explain. Color Me Bad used to be this R&B group, and they used to have this hit song called "I Wanna Set You Up." So that's that group. You got Tretch from Naughty by Nature. So that's basically indicating to you that the other two members are not going to be in this presentation. And I think I know why, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. But yeah, they got the biggest attractions. They got Soulja Boy and they got Bow Wow. And man, the struggle is real out here for a lot of these mid-level type of performers or mid-level type of artists, because I talked about how, after the pandemic, when the pandemic was going to be over, there was going to be a period where when everyone starts performing live, they're going to be making a lot of money. And that's pretty much what everybody did. As soon as the recommendations of the pandemic ban was over with and everyone was allowed to go back out and live their lives, I felt like for 6 months to a year, you kept noticing a lot of people going back on the road, making all types of money. And I said at that time, it's so many people oversaturating going back out on the road, because you got to realize these people weren't making money during the pandemic. And a lot of these artists wasn't making their money. The majority of their money, the majority of their profits come from being on the road. Definitely ain't coming from streaming. Snoop Dogg said that you don't make a lot of money just streaming music. Okay. So if you don't have a merch line, if you don't have some type of line promoting, or if you're not doing other things, you better be on the road. Like, there's a lot of artists, all they do is perform. They make music and then they perform. So when the pandemic was over, you had all types of artists going out. And I felt like that pretty much crashed that market. You understand what I'm saying? It was so many people going out at once. Before the pandemic, everyone was taking their time going out on the road. Everyone didn't want to be on the road with some other big performer. So everyone was waiting when that performer was no longer on the road or no longer performing in this area, then they would go to that area or they would go to that part of the world. It was like once the pandemic was over, the floodgates opened. Everyone was out there performing. And that was great for us as fans, because we got to see an abundance of a lot of artists that we would have had to wait to see. But all the big name artists came out there and performed. And I felt like that was the beginning of the end of making your money on the road because it was oversaturated. All right. And a lot of these cats, such as Bow Wow, such as Soulja Boy, they would stay on the road constantly. Okay. Because that's how they made their money. I know a lot of people see them on TikTok or on Twitch. They come out with a different song. They collaborate with somebody. They come out with a different album. But none of those resources are generating a boat ton of money. They get the mass production of their money from performing. Okay, so I felt like when everyone started performing, you started seeing these mid-tier performers that would constantly be on the road. The struggle was real for those people, such as Bow Wow and Soulja Boy. I mean, the last time Bow Wow was on a major tour was at Millennium Tour with him, B2K, Omarion, and some other people. So that was the last time I ever saw Bow Wow on a major tour. Okay, and since then, he's been trying to get back, in touring, going at these festivals and stuff like that. But a lot of these performers are like, if you can't get a main production team to do a worldwide tour or just a tour in general, if you can't get anyone to put money behind your tour that way, then you do the festivals. And since there's so many people going to festivals, these mid-tier people such as Bow Wow and Soulja Boy, they have to do the circus route. They will have to go to, state fairs, circuses, and hey, circuses, even real talk, you can make some mad money, particularly with Ringling Brothers. If you're part of that production, you're making some decent money. Or if you're going to Vegas have a lot of these hotels that will have you slotted in. You can make major money doing that. These casinos, you can make major money doing that. But you got to realize a lot of these guys, a lot of the A-tier guys are gobbling up those type of venues. So only things left are the venues that no one else wants. And SeaWorld is one of those venues. I can't imagine Soulja Boy and Bow Wow making a ton of money performing at SeaWorld. Now, I feel like with Soulja Boy, he has no choice but to go this route. Because remember, Soulja Boy got sued by his personal assistant, and he lost millions off of that. Not to mention, he's been losing money hand over fist for the past couple of years. As even though you see Soulja Boy on social media, even though you see Soulja Boy doing live streams and see Soulja Boy on Twitch, that type of he's not making a lot of revenue doing that, and that's not going to help him get out of the hole. So you're going to start seeing Soulja Boy at SeaWorld. You're going to start seeing Soulja Boy at these state fairs. You're going to see Soulja Boy at a lot of these small tier venues, and he's piecing money together to generate some type of money. People got to eat, bills got to get paid, people got responsibilities, so you got to get into where you can fit in, or unless you want to do a 9-to-5 working at McDonald's. I can imagine seeing Soulja Boy crank that Soulja Boy at McDonald's. So I don't see Soulja Boy doing that. But yeah, that did not surprise me when I read the press clippings that Soulja Boy is at SeaWorld. When they said Bow Wow was going to be at SeaWorld, that didn't surprise me as either. We look at Bow Wow and Soulja Boy, they haven't made any new music in many moons. So this move should have been, we should have expected this move. Color Me Bad, that's an old 90s group. You expect them to make a move like this. Tretch from Naughty by Nature. There's no huge demand for these types of artists. So, of course, they're going to make moves like this. Genuine, of course, he's going to make. Even when Genuine was in his prime, I remember seeing Genuine at the state fair when he was in his prime. So this is nothing new to Genuine. Genuine hits all the venues, okay? Because I think Genuine is a smart individual. He's still going to do something on a grand scale if there's an opportunity to do that, like on a major tour. But if he can, not be the headline and be sort of part of the tour, he would do that. And he's always been known, he's a very humble individual that he's willing to do tours whenever and wherever. Okay. That's how you make your money. There's nothing shameful about making your money. Okay. So, yeah, that those were not big surprises to me, in my humble opinion about it. But I just thought it was weird that Soulja Boy, crank that Soulja Boy, make her clap Soulja Boy, is at SeaWorld. How the mighty has fallen. Okay, but hey, you got to get into where you can fit in. Okay, you got to get in to where you can fit.